Walk into any Chevy dealership used car lot right now and you will find them sitting in the back corner, priced to move, with not a single buyer interested. Meanwhile, the same lot has people lined up to finance a brand new Equinox at $35,000 with a 7% interest rate and a powertrain that has not even proven itself past 60,000 miles yet. I've been a mechanic for over 20 years, and I'm telling you right now, there are 5 used Chevrolets that the market has completely abandoned, and every single one of them is an absolute gold mine at today's prices. I am saving the best for number 1 because that car, in my professional opinion, is the single most undervalued vehicle in the entire Chevrolet lineup. Let us get into it. Starting at number 5 is a car that Chevy killed off in 2019 and the used market immediately forgot it existed. The Chevrolet Cruze, specifically the second generation from 2016 to 2019 with the 1.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, is a compact sedan that most buyers skip right past because they assume a cheap compact sedan equals cheap engineering. That is completely wrong. The 1.4-liter turbo in this generation is not the kind of forced induction engine that keeps mechanics up at night. It is a small displacement unit that General Motors refined across millions of vehicles, including the Buick Encore, the Chevy Trax, and multiple international models before it ever landed in the Cruze. It produces 153 horsepower, which does not sound exciting until you realize this car weighs about 3,000 pounds and returns 40 miles per gallon on the highway. That is hybrid territory from a conventional gasoline engine with no battery pack to worry about in 10 years. About 6 months ago, a college kid came into my shop asking for advice. He had $9,000 saved up from a summer job and everyone was telling him to buy a Civic. I pulled up a listing for a 2017 Cruze LT with 68,000 miles, priced at $8,400. Clean title, 1 owner, full service records. I inspected it that same week. Compression was perfect. The transmission shifted like it had 20,000 miles on it. He bought it. 5 months later, he came back for an oil change and told me he was getting 38 miles per gallon on his daily commute. Total repairs since purchase, 0. The 6-speed automatic in these is a conventional torque converter unit, not a CVT, not a dual clutch. It is proven and a real value, and a rebuild runs about $2,200 at any independent shop if it ever comes to that. Current market pricing on a clean 2017 to 2019 Cruze LT with under 80,000 miles is between $8,000 and $12,000. A same-year Honda Civic with similar miles commands $14,000 to $18,000. You are paying $6,000 more for a Honda badge and a marginally nicer interior. The drivetrains are comparable in longevity. When you inspect one, check the PCV valve system. The 1.4 turbo had a known issue with the PCV valve cover on early 2016 and some 2017 models, causing rough idle and occasional check engine lights. It is a $180 fix, and most have already been addressed. Also check the turbo wastegate actuator for any rattle at idle. If the engine runs smooth and the turbo spools without hesitation, you are looking at a car that will go 200,000 miles without drama for less than a decent used motorcycle. Number 4 is a vehicle that most people do not even cross-shop anymore because Chevy replaced it with something smaller and less capable. And that is exactly why the used prices are so low. I am talking about the Chevrolet Malibu, specifically from 2016 to 2024 with the 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. General Motors just killed the Malibu last year. Production ended and the market collectively shrugged. Nobody cared. That is incredible news for used buyers because there are thousands of clean, low-mileage Malibus flooding the used market right now with prices dropping every month. A coworker's wife came to me last fall looking for a commuter car. She had been eyeing a 2022 Toyota Camry LE with 41,000 miles, listed at $22,500. I asked her if she had driven a Malibu. She had not. I found a 2022 Malibu LT with 38,000 miles for $15,800. She drove both back to back, and her exact words were, "The Malibu ride's quieter." She bought the Chevy and saved nearly $7,000. The 1.5-liter turbo paired with the CVT in the Malibu is not the most thrilling powertrain on the road, but it is efficient and it holds up. General Motors continuously refined this combination across the production run, and by 2020 onward, it was a mature, debugged system. It makes 160 horsepower, returns 36 miles per gallon on the highway, and runs on regular unleaded. Annual maintenance costs sit around $468 according to RepairPal, which is below the mid-size sedan average. The interior on LT and above trims is genuinely competitive with anything in the class. Heated seats, an 8-inch touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay, and a ride quality that is softer and more comfortable than a Camry or an Accord at the same price point. Current pricing on a 2021 to 2023 Malibu LT with 40,000 to 60,000 miles runs $14,000 to $18,000. A comparable Camry is $20,000 to $25,000. The Malibu is not the sportiest sedan you can buy, but if you are commuting 40 miles a day and you want comfortable, quiet, and cheap to maintain, it is a smarter buy than what most people end up choosing. Inspection priorities are straightforward. Check the CVT fluid for proper level and color. Listen for any whine from the transmission at low speed. Check the turbo oil feed line for seepage. If those check out, you have a modern, well-equipped sedan for the price of a 10-year-old Accord. Number 3, and this is where things start getting really interesting for families, the Chevrolet Equinox, 3rd generation, 2018 to 2023, with the 1.5-liter turbo. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. The Equinox has been one of the best-selling vehicles in America for years, and that is both its curse and its blessing. Because there are so many of them on used lots, prices have been pushed down to levels that make absolutely no sense when you look at the reliability data. A family of 4 came through my shop about a year ago. They were convinced they needed a RAV4. I asked what their budget was. They said $22,000. I showed them a 2021 Equinox LT with all-wheel drive, 44,000 miles, listed at $17,200. They test drove it and came back with the same look I have seen 100 times, the look that says, "Why did nobody tell me about this?" They bought it 11 months later, total unscheduled repairs, 0, only oil changes and a cabin air filter. That is it. If this kind of honest breakdown is saving you from overpaying, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I release videos every week showing you what the dealerships are not telling you. Now back to the Equinox. The 1.5-liter turbo in these produces 170 horsepower and is mated to a 6-speed automatic, not a continuously variable transmission. RepairPal gives the Equinox a reliability rating of 4 out of 5 and ranks it above the RAV4 in annual maintenance cost. Average annual repair spending comes in around $537 compared to the compact SUV average of $521, which is essentially identical, but you are paying $5,000 to $8,000 less than a comparable Toyota to get there. Use pricing right now on a 2020 to 2022 Equinox LT with all-wheel drive and 50,000 to 70,000 miles is between $16,000 and $20,000. A same-year RAV4 with similar miles is $24,000 to $28,000. That price gap is pure badge tax. When inspecting, check for excessive oil consumption on models from before 2020. Some early 1.5-liter turbos had reports of higher than normal oil use. Check the dipstick at the test drive and again a week later if the seller allows it. Also verify the all-wheel drive engages properly by testing it on gravel or wet pavement. If the system works cleanly and the engine holds oil, you have a practical family SUV for thousands less than what everyone else is paying for a Toyota that does the same job. Number 2 is the truck that sits in the shadow of the Tacoma and has been punished for it since the day it launched. The Chevrolet Colorado from 2015 to 2022 with the 3.6-liter V6. This is the same LGX engine family that General Motors put in the Camaro, the Cadillac ATS, and a half dozen other vehicles. It is a naturally aspirated 3.6-liter V6, making 308 horsepower with a timing chain, direct injection, and variable valve timing. Paired with an 8-speed automatic, this truck tows 7,000 pounds and actually has the power to merge onto a highway without your foot going to the floor. A contractor I have known for years came in 18 months ago looking for a mid-sized truck. He wanted a Tacoma. I showed him the numbers. A 2019 Tacoma TRD off-road with 72,000 miles was listed at $31,000. A 2019 Colorado Z71 with the V6 four-wheel drive and 65,000 miles was $21,500. Nearly $10,000 less for a truck with more horsepower, a smoother transmission, and a more comfortable interior. He bought the Colorado 18 months and 34,000 miles later. His total repair bill has been a set of brake pads and 2 oil changes. The truck pulls his 5,000-pound equipment trailer every week without complaint. Current pricing on a Colorado from 2018 to 2021 with the V6 engine and four-wheel drive runs $19,000 to $25,000 depending on trim and miles. A comparable Tacoma is $27,000 to $35,000. You're paying $8,000 to $10,000 more for a Tacoma that has less power, a rougher ride, and a resale reputation that has nothing to do with how the truck actually performs mechanically. That is real value. Inspection points on the Colorado are simple. Check the transmission fluid on the 8-speed transmission for proper color and smell. Listen for any timing chain rattle on cold startup because the 3.6-liter engine can develop chain stretch past 150,000 miles if oil changes were neglected. Inspect the transfer case for leaks on four-wheel drive models. If those are clean, you are looking at a long-lasting truck that will run for 250,000 miles while everyone else is still making payments on a Tacoma. And here it is, number 1, the Chevrolet Impala 10th generation 2014 to 2020 with the 3.6-liter V6. This is the single most undervalued car in the entire used Chevrolet market, and it is not even close. Chevy discontinued the Impala in 2020, and the moment they did, the resale market collapsed. Nobody cared. Sedans were dead, crossovers were king. The Impala got thrown into the bargain bin with rental car leftovers and fleet auction rejects. That is an absolute gift for anyone paying attention. A retired postal worker came into my shop 2 years ago looking for a comfortable daily driver. He had $14,000 and was considering a 2019 Camry. I pulled up a 2019 Impala Premier with the 3.6-liter V6, leather-heated and ventilated seats, a panoramic sunroof, Bose audio, and 52,000 miles, priced at $13,200. He sat in it, drove it around the block, came back and said, "This feels like a $40,000 car." He was right. The original manufacturer's suggested retail price on that vehicle was over $38,000. The 3.6-liter LGX V6 in the 10th generation Impala is a durable engine, making 305 horsepower and is mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission that General Motors perfected over more than a decade of production. This is not an experimental drivetrain. This is a fully mature powertrain that General Motors put in everything from the Cadillac CTS to the Chevy Traverse. It is timing chain driven, so there is no belt to replace. It runs on regular unleaded fuel. I have personally seen these engines past 250,000 miles on original internals with nothing but oil changes and a set of spark plugs. 2 years later, that retired postal worker has put 41,000 miles on his Impala. Total repairs outside of routine maintenance amount to a single brake job. That is it. The car rides like a luxury sedan because it essentially is one. The cabin is whisper quiet at highway speed. The seats are genuinely comfortable for 6-hour drives, and the trunk is so large you could practically live in it. Current used pricing is where this gets absurd. A 2018 to 2020 Impala Premier with 60,000 to 80,000 miles is selling for $13,000 to $18,000. A same-year Camry XSE V6 with similar miles is selling for $22,000 to $27,000. You are paying $9,000 more for a Toyota that has a less comfortable ride, a smaller interior, and a drivetrain that is not statistically more reliable. Repair Pal gives the Impala an average annual maintenance cost of around $556. The full-size sedan average is $590. You are getting a vehicle with more features, more space, and more power than nearly anything in its price range. When you inspect one, check the high-pressure fuel pump and listen for any ticking from the top of the engine on cold start. The 3.6-liter direct injection system can develop carbon buildup on the intake valves past 100,000 miles. A walnut blast cleaning runs about $350 and solves it completely. Check the transmission for smooth shifts between second and third gear in city driving. Look underneath for any oil leaks around the rear main seal. If the engine is quiet, the transmission is smooth, and the underside is dry, you have just found a full-size luxury sedan for the price of a base model compact crossover. So there it is, 5 Chevrolets the market has completely forgotten about, and every single one of them is a gold mine at today's prices. The Cruze, the Malibu, the Equinox, the Colorado, and the Impala. The Cruze that gets 40 miles per gallon for under $10,000. The Malibu that rides quieter than a Camry for $7,000 less. The Equinox that does everything a RAV4 does for thousands under the Toyota tax. The Colorado that outpowers and underprices the almighty Tacoma by $10,000. And the king of the list, the Impala with the bulletproof 3.6 V6, a luxury interior, and a used price so low it should embarrass every Camry buyer in America. None of these cars will turn heads in your neighbor's driveway. None of them have the resale cult status of a Toyota or the badge appeal of a Honda. What they have is engineering that works, maintenance costs that stay low, and prices that punish everyone who refuses to look past the bow tie on the grill. If you want to see which full-size sedans have actually gone 300,000 miles in my shop without a major failure, I made a video on exactly that. It is right here. Over 20 years of turning wrenches has taught me one thing. The cars the market ignores are usually the ones you should be buying. Like the video if it helped. Subscribe for more honest car advice that dealerships will not give you. Drive safe, take care of your car, and it will take care of you.